So what do these lines mean in RateMyTactic web app? That's what we're going to discuss today. And there is a default tactic here. And if you scroll down just below the forward movement and penetration scores, solidity scores, and support score, scroll a bit down, you're going to see what we call partnerships. And that's exactly what those lines stand for when you're trying to rate your tactic with this web app. Now, the lines get thicker when you increase the risk. Now, in central midfield, there's a low risk direct partnership. And we can see that here in the advanced playmaker, the double advanced playmaker. This is probably not even a real tactic, to be honest. It's just the default, but I'm trying to explain to you what those lines actually mean. So there's a low risk partnership here, and I think that's because the inverted wingback is on defend duty, so he's not taking that much risk, but the other two guys are going to be taking risks. So let's try and tweak the tactic a bit to something that makes sense and start building, bringing in roles that would be normal for us to use, and then we'll figure out what those lines actually mean. So I'm going to start with this inverted wingback. I'll change him to a fullback on support DT, so you can see that that line goes away now. And then I can have a defensive midfielder, just a generic defensive midfielder on defend. And then on the left hand side, there's a trequartista in here. There's clearly no link between the trequartista and the fullback on support DT according to this web app. So there's no direct link between them. So you can scroll down and see that there's no indicator showing that there's a direct link. But if I go ahead and change the trequartista and then bring in an inside forward on support duty, you can see that we have a blue line there. And what the blue line stands for, you can scroll down to partnership and just see it. It stands for a balanced interchanging partnership between those two players. So the fullback on support duty is a balanced player and doesn't really like to overdo his role that much. Is why I really enjoyed this role this year. And let's see if I switch the inside forward to attack. So you can see that the line changes and becomes pink, and it's a lot bolder than this other first line that we saw. So there's also another yellow line here between the inside forward on attack and the trequartista on attack. So you can scroll down again to the partnerships link, and then you're going to see in central attack there is a high risk overlapping partnership. So the high risk overlapping partnership is between the inside forward and the trequartista. That is because the trequartista is going to roam around a lot, and the inside forward is going to take advantage of that space vacated by the trequartista, even though the trequartista is on attack. So that is an overlapping partnership that is going to happen. There's a direct partnership also between the advanced playmakers in attack. Why do I even have 3 advanced playmakers? Okay, so let me move this guy, but in case just to be sure, there is a direct partnership, high risk direct partnership on the right flank that is between the inside forward and the fullback on support. There's also a direct partnership in attack, high risk direct partnership. There are 2 of them. There's a number count here. There's 2 direct partnerships in central attack. So we can see that advanced playmaker are in direct partnership with the inside forward on the left hand side. So let's just move one advanced playmaker to the left under that trequartista. Let's make this guy a winger on support, and then we can shift the inverted fullback here to maybe play as an inverted wingback on support DT. So on support DT, inverted wingback is also a balanced partnership between the inverted wingback and the wingback on support DT. If I ask my inverted wingback to play on attack, that becomes a direct partnership. But you can see that this line is not as thick as the other 2 lines here. This line is very thin, and these other 2 lines are thick. So we can go down and see in central midfield, there's a medium risk overlapping partnership. The medium risk overlapping partnership is between the advanced playmaker that is playing on this side and the inverted wingback on attack. There's also a high risk overlapping partnership between the inverted wingback on attack DT and the winger on support DT. So it's odd because the web app doesn't understand underlap in this case. So this overlapping partnership on the left flank is actually an underlap between the winger is going to stay out wide, and then the inverted wingback is going to be coming inside into this space here where the winger, it's like the half spaces, right? So he's going to come into this space. So that's like an underlap, but the web app still reads that as an overlap. So it's saying it's a high risk overlapping partnership, but that's an underlap, to be honest. So that's basically how you can go about understanding the lines. In case you don't understand it, you can just scroll down and then read what that means. But from what I'm explaining, I hope it does help. In central midfield, I'm going to pull back my advanced playmaker. Okay, let's just try a 4-4-2. I think that sort of works best to try and add a little bit more depth to what we're doing. I'm going to have this striker play as an advanced forward. Instead of a target man, I'm going to have an advanced forward in here to play on attack, and then you can have a deep line forward on support. And then I'm going to switch this to get us something like a 4-4-2. And now in central midfield, I'm going to opt for a deep lying playmaker on support duty and then a box-to-box midfielder on support duty. I'm going to shift this to a wing back on support. So you can see that there isn't much of a direct partnership between these two, even though in our heads it looks like that should be a direct partnership, but it's only showing the link between these two. So if I have a winger here or a wide midfielder on support duty, there's a direct partnership between him and the wing back on support. But if I switch my deep lying playmaker to play as, instead of deep lying playmaker, play as a central midfielder on support duty, you can see that it has a sort of balanced partnership, interchanging partnership between him and the box-to-box midfielder. So he is going to be switching, and they're not going to be doing that aggressively, so it's not high risk. It's something that's going to happen in a conservative manner, kind of. So that's how I understand these lines. You can just go through the video and study the lines as you go on to make changes in the RateMyTactic web app. But don't forget, you still have to play the game. You still have to observe your player attributes in the game and how they work and how those partnerships actually go on to work out. But what this web app is showing you is there are certain players that have relationships with one another, and these lines tend to bring that relationship to your knowledge so you can actually know what is happening in your tactics. So I'm going to switch my fullback on attack now instead of support. You can see that the fullback on attack now has a high risk partnership with the box-to-box midfielder and inverted winger. So scrolling down to the center of midfield, okay, it's only on the left flank. High risk overlapping partnership, and that's 2 in number. So you can see that it's between the fullback on attack and the box-to-box and the inverted winger on support duty. That's basically how the lines work. You can go ahead and spend some time with it and see what you're doing, see how it actually also plays out in the game. And I hope this video helped. If it didn't, you can remember to reach out to me on Twitter, or what we call X now. You can see ask a lot more questions. I'll be ready to answer you. Now there's one more thing I need to mention. If you're using this app to rate your tactic, remember that you need to understand your level of the level of team you're using. So you can see the relative risk down here, team strength relative to the opponent. So if you know that you're playing against a team that is much better than you, you're going to want to have that slider move slightly to the left hand side, where you see that you're much worse than the opponent. But if you're the better team on the day in your league, for example, you can create a tactic that has the sliders all the way to the right, where you're the much better opponent, even though they are going to win almost every game. And remember, you can also subscribe to the channel for more football manager tips and football manager tactic videos like this. I'll see you in the next one.